Hello and welcome. I've come down to the beach between rain showers, and in the hopes that this will remain dry for me to look at some of your comments, talk about those. I've come with umbrellas, two, one for myself, one for the phone, and a plastic bag to put the phone in and the microphone rather than my normal cloth bag. And we'll see how it goes. They do have a lot of biodegradable plastic in use here in Sri Lanka, which I'm pleased to say. So we can redistribute the extra food offerings, dana, that I'm given each day in biodegradable plastic bags and newspaper wrapping, which helps us sort it out, but without creating lots of waste for this beautiful island. So that's good news, and why perhaps this is such a pristine and clean place to see and live in. Also, in this rainy time, I've discovered, I had heard about, but there are a lot of leeches. If you don't know what they are these worm things, sort of dark brown or black in colour, anything from the size of a fingernail to an index finger, which attach themselves to you, and you don't really notice in the water as you're wading around. But I've on a couple of occasions now returned to my kuti and accidentally brushed one off, which you shouldn't do. There's a way to gently remove them because they draw a lot of blood, not like a mosquito, which you really notice when it comes to take its blood. These things you don't notice, and they create a bloodbath. I mean, if this happens here and now, we'll have not so much a talk, but a blood and gore horror video, I should think. I'm hoping, being near the seawater, they don't like that. And I'll be relatively safe, because you don't know until you see the blood pool. So they are little things I'm having to deal with, as well as quite sore toes between your toes, where your feet never get dry. But, you know, overnight they dry and they're okay the next morning for arms round again. But I thought, why not? You know, I go on Pinart in the absolute pouring rain, and it doesn't stop me. So why shouldn't I come down here in the absolute pouring rain? And as I arrived, it did stop. So we are blessed with that opportunity, at least. And hopefully the lighting is good. Now the sound is better without the traffic, although you have the waves. I think it's a little bit more soothing than buses and horns. So moving on, whilst I can. And also drying clothing. It's very humid because it's still quite warm, and where it's been raining a lot. This is really like the Vasa, the monsoon season, rains season that I've spent in Thailand in the jungle there. Is very humid as well. You can never dry your robes, and your lower robe and upper robe. So you end up wearing them a little bit longer than you'd like to without being able to clean them, because you know it's very difficult to dry them. I was fortunate that this morning I managed to keep this one relatively dry, and whilst I was eating my meal under the fan, because the electricity didn't go off as it has been doing, it was able to dry enough for me to come down here and be quite comfortable. Although I'm quite used to it being wet too. It's not a problem. It's not as though it's cold here, that's the point. By that which knows, do you mean Cheetah? Well, yes. When I usually refer to that which knows, I am referring to the Cheetah. I don't think I'll go into a whole talk about that now, because there are other comments to talk about, and I think you'll probably find that in most of my videos I will refer to the Cheetah and its meaning, the meaning of. In a recent video I know we discussed and I talked about the soul and the Cheetah, so maybe as you get round to hearing the older talks, or ones you haven't heard yet, all your questions about that will be answered. But it will come up again in due course. These topics, I'm not brushing over them by saying, oh, I've already talked about that, because they will always come up over and over again. It's cyclical. So we sort of go through the Noble Eightfold Path, we go through the faculties of existence, or the characteristics of existence, we go through the stages of enlightenment, all of these different lists and these different teachings of the Buddha, which are all interlinked, and it becomes rather rotational in a way, but not repetitive, because the comments that I receive from you are usually applying these teachings to real life examples. So we'll wait for that to come up again before I talk about it more fully, if you don't mind. Okay. Hi, I have a question. What is your opinion on reincarnation and why it happens? I could give you the same answer on that one, couldn't I, in a way, but I won't. Have mentioned before that you do not believe in any god or gods. How then can reincarnation be explained without a god? Okay, well, I'm not talking about reincarnation. Reincarnation is your own personality as you see it, or soul being reincarnated, reborn in a different form, or a human form, even the same form, and I don't know anything about that. This is not what we understand in Buddhism to be what happens after this physical body stops working, after we die in this physical body. We are reborn. There is rebirth. Now, I know that might sound like semantics, it's just a different way of saying the same word. It's not, it's entirely different. Reincarnation implies that the soul, this person, all of its attributes and personality, goes on to be reborn or reincarnated in a different form. A squirrel or a warana. So I've got a squirrel there. I wish you could see these creatures. I've got a warana, which is a big water monitor lizard, and just there. So they were what came to mind. Reincarnation is one of those, but you'd still have the same thoughts and thinking and behavioural patterns. This is what I vaguely believe reincarnation is, but that's nothing to do with Buddhism. We understand that our goodness takes on rebirth. This cheetah is reborn into reborn into samsara, into this cycle of birth and rebirth, this cycle of existence, and that can be in any realm, but it's also occurring momentarily within this lifetime, by which I mean our rebirth is such that one minute we could be a policeman, the next minute we could be working in a library or a school teacher, the next minute we could be retired, sitting in front of the television, smoking our pipe with our feet up on the table, and a relaxed, retired old man or something like that. You know, we're being changed all of the time, but the same person within this lifetime. But our causes and conditions we put in place through our acts of body, speech and mind are what result in those manifestations. So I think once again, with regards to the whole subject of rebirth, if you just search on my videos, what is rebirth, English Buddhist Monk, what is rebirth, there's plenty of me talking about that very subject. And as far as God, I don't believe in God. I have not said that I do not believe in any God or gods. I have said I have no opinion as to whether or not there are any gods, or there is a God or any gods. Maybe I have an opinion that if there is a God, it doesn't mean there's only one. There may be others. I know nothing about those realms or gods of their existence or not. So I have neither one opinion one way or the other as to whether they exist or whether they don't. But whether they do or whether they don't has no bearing on our idea in Buddhism of rebirth whatsoever. So it doesn't really apply. And I've put links in there. I've done 3 videos all about rebirth, so I could have just said that, couldn't I? So, any thoughts on why simple meditation is not taught in most schools? And then you go into very good reasons as to why that would be a good idea. and that you've suggested it but didn't get much of a good response. I suppose it depends where you live. Certainly in schools in Thailand and I know in Thailand they do actually not so much teach meditation. Meditation's part of people's lives. So the children, like I went to a Catholic school, and at the beginning of each lesson we had to say the Hail Mary, the Lord's Prayer, and the Hail Mary, which meant after so many periods, lessons in the day, you'd said this quite a few times. In a way, that kind of chanting was like their version of a meditation. So it depends on where you live. It's the culture you're in. I mean, you could say the amount of time I spent saying Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus, and the Lord's Prayer, was time I could have spent in meditation. And but these days I think schools are mainly non-religious in the West, so they try to leave it out of the curriculum. Of course, yes, I mean, it would be a good idea, but as we know, for ourselves, it's a good idea, but we can't expect that everybody on the planet will all of a sudden tomorrow keep the 5 precepts, practice meditation and develop wisdom, practice Sila, Samadhi, Panya. But what we can do is that ourselves and set that very good example so that others will follow. And that is really how and the way the Buddha taught, by example, and that we should pass these teachings on by example also. So to enforce it upon people in schools, I think it would be beneficial. It would have no detriment, but to convince the authorities to bring it into the curriculum would probably be quite an exercise. It is possibly coming in to modern day education through the back door of mindfulness, as they would call it in popular culture, or sati. So in order to have mindfulness, one needs to practice samadhi. So maybe when teachers are going on their mindfulness courses, or educational authority bosses are going on their mindfulness courses in their management capacities of educational institutions, they might bring some of that back to their scholastic environments and bring it in an informal way. But that's about as much as we can hope for. Just with our own children, we can teach them a little bit about, I believe, I don't know of any examples, there are some good children's books on these subjects. If you just Google that, you may be able to get them interested in. But children are very, I have found, very keen to meditate. If you give them this idea, you sit with them first and show them how, they are you'd be surprised how excited they are about the idea of sitting and doing nothing. They get the same benefits as we do as adults, so it's very encouraging when you see lots of little school children in Thai schools all sitting very peacefully, meditating, seemingly in deep samadhi. Whether or not they are, I don't know, but it's a wonderful thing to see, and they enjoy it and look forward to it. So it can be done, and it is done. It's not just what you're seeing around you. So it isn't everywhere, and you do say just most schools, but this is the difference between Western culture, Eastern culture, the modern world, the not so modern world, but really the different cultures that we live in. We can't fix it all. This isn't what we hope to do. But and don't ruin your own practice trying to fix the world that we can't fix. There will always be suffering. There is suffering. We can only look to ourselves, within ourselves, to end suffering in this lifetime for ourselves, and by that example improve other people's lives also. Will I be able to find Dharma again in the next life? Yes, it depends on what you're doing now. If you lead a hedonistic life of drunken debauchery, possibly not. You'll rebirth in the next life. I'm assuming you have an understanding of rebirth, and that we are reborn into this world, or this a realm, a samsaric existence, whether it's this realm or another. And again, I won't talk about all the different options there, because I don't know of those. We only hear about those in Buddhist cosmology and mythology. I only tend to talk about what I know, or from an own experiential point of view. So rebirth in the next realm will depend what you're doing now. If you're practicing Sila Samadhi Panya, even if you're not able to continually keep the precepts or able to meditate as much as you'd like, and you don't succeed in becoming free from suffering in this lifetime, the chances are, we can't predict 100% what will happen as a result of our karmic actions. Our karma is actions that we do of body, speech and mind. Vipaka is its results. The Buddha said there's no actual calculus to predict what will happen because we have so many previous lifetimes that can affect what happens next. We never know when it's going to come to fruition. But the more good we do, the better the results will be. And the dilution of any previous bad karma will be that it's not noticeable. So you may have to have a bad 5 minutes in the next existence, whereas the rest of it will be wonderful. To pay back for some bad karma you did a long time ago. It could have been very, very bad, but you've done so much good in subsequent lives that now it's hardly noticeable. Someone will come and bump you on the head and that'll be the end of that. But you do repay it. There's no getting away from it. It's not written off. However, if you're practicing Dharma in this life, the chances are you'll be born into an existence where you'll have that opportunity to hear the Dharma again. And this is possibly why you are hearing the Dharma now, as a result of causes and conditions you've put in place in the previous lifetime. If you're born, however, into the animal realms, then this is going to be difficult, unless you're like my cat, the Balala, or the previous dog we had at the last place I was staying, whom got to be around the Dharma, if not even a way of understanding it verbally, in terms of the way in the environment that he was living, things went on. The other monks were behaving, I was behaving, what we were doing, meditating, a quiet environment. They're experiencing the Dharma. So if you're fortunate enough to be born into that environment, even if you're in the realms of dogs or cats, then that's as a result of good karmic action, good karma you've put in place on previous occasions, in previous times. But if you are just a street dog running around in a busy city, the chances of ever hearing the Dharma are very little. So this is why we don't worry about what we've done in the past, and we don't start thinking about the future, what will happen as a result of what we've done in the past. We just worry and think, not worry, it's the wrong word. We just carry out actions that are wholesome now, skillful now, of body, speech and mind. And we develop wholesome mind states and we reduce unwholesome mind states. This is establishing a good, firm foundation of sila, for moral virtue, and a basis for our practice of samadhi, meditation, which then ultimately develops wisdom. This is the best we can do. This is the practice. And by doing this, we are diluting any previous bad karma, and this will establish the groundwork, the direction in which we will go in not only the future within this life, but in future rebirths. So you will hear the Dharma, I'm sure, yes. Where are you living in Sri Lanka? I want to come and meet you one day. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya to you too, and I hope you can. I'm living in a place called Bentota, which is on the west coast, just south of Colombo, before Gaul, which is at the tip at the bottom almost. It's a very small island in relation to some other places. It's smaller than our island, which is a country, part of the United Kingdom, Ireland and Northern Ireland. It's smaller than that, I heard someone say the other day. So that really makes me realise how small this country is. I'm easy to find, and apparently I'm on Google Maps anyway, so wherever you are in the world, here I am. But that will, if I move to somewhere else, that will move also. Oh, I've lost all the questions now. Okay. So somebody is asking me if I take prayer requests. Please send them in if you have them, and your loved ones or whatever it is you're requesting. I will certainly be included in my thoughts when I am chanting in the morning and offering you blessings in the morning each and every day at 6 a.m. when I do that. So yes, in that respect, yes, it's good for you to be able to do that because you're also, it's a good action. It helps you in many ways, and hopefully helps the person that you're referring to also. So I have included in this particular case the person you're referring to in this morning's blessings, in my thoughts. I'm not going to be saying named requests because the list can become quite long, and also it can become I think it's more meaningful if the whole case scenario is read and understood by me and included in my thoughts than me just listing names, if that makes sense. And I do wish you well in all of that. And you also go on to ask me a question. What do you think about the practice of martial arts by lay people if grounded in the precepts? It seems to be moving meditation when done for general well-being, and when and if sparring, the exercise is done for fun and conversation. And conversation, or maybe, not harm. I hope to hear what you think. I mean, yes, as a layperson, that's perfectly fine. Martial arts are a very skillful way of developing mindfulness too, and also bringing our awareness into the body. And you've probably heard of the Shaolin monks who use this practice very, very deeply in terms of their everyday work, in terms of their practice as a kind of meditation. Now, it isn't really a meditation, it's a different thing. It's an action you're doing, but it's a skillful action. It's keeping you healthy and fit and supple, and it really does require a considerable amount of mindfulness in its very real nature, and bringing your awareness into the body. And also of your surrounding environment. Also, if you're sparring with a partner, you're having to not only be aware of your own bodily actions but theirs, and respond not in aggression but defensively, and using their energy to your benefit. So it's skillful. Now, as monks, we cannot engage in any kind of sports activities, games, or playing of that nature. It's just part of our discipline. So Shaolin monks aside, that's a whole different tradition and different idea. In terms of conventional, in Theravada Buddhism, and as monks, bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, we don't go around performing kung fu and wrestling or fighting with each other. We have to give all that up when we become a monk. Like as if our sport was football or golf or something like that, we can no longer play those or even watch them or use them as for entertainment, because we're not allowed that either. When I say not allowed, these rules are there to help us concentrate on what we are here to do, which is to become free from suffering in this lifetime through the practice of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and concentrate only on that. And as far as external activities go, are concerned, there should be none to distract from that practice of meditation and keeping our moral precepts, extending to which we can offer talks like this, talking about the Dharma, talking about, as I am doing here. But that really is going to the limits of our external activities in terms of socializing, in terms of just doing things that aren't related directly to our own individual personal practice. So yes, martial arts can be also a solitary sport when you're practicing, and a lot of monks practice something called Qi Gong or something like that, which is kind of like Tai Chi, with these kind of movements, very graceful movements, and very much mindfulness on the body and breathing and slow actions. I'm not sure what you do or much about that, but this is an activity some monks do engage in. It's a solitary practice, it's something they enjoy, and it's a good way of exercising. Personally, I don't find any benefit in these things. I am getting up and down from the floor continuously throughout the day, which is exercise in itself. If you try for one day just sitting on the floor and never at a table or on a chair, and see how many times you have to get up from the floor and down again, you'll see that that's quite a lot of exercise in itself. And also I walk about 9 to 12 kilometers every day, I think it's about 7 or 8 kilometres at least on Pinart, and then a few more kilometres during the rest of the day. So I get sufficient exercise in that respect, and then don't have any time for any other activities. But I used to be into martial arts myself, and a lot of that helped me with this because it's developing mindfulness. So nothing wrong with it at all. As you say, within the precepts. If you go out if you join a lot of these MMA, mixed martial arts competitions, are a little bit more on the glamorous sort of aggressive fighting side. Whereas if you go to a, what is it called? A doji, I think, or something, a kung fu, karate place with a master who's teaching you, it's very, very graceful and very, very skillfully done. I mean, my own sports were in judo and then jiu-jitsu, which is a kind of a cross between judo and kung fu, which the Japanese adapted, and then it got taken on by Brazil. So but it is a martial art and requires a lot of mindfulness. Also a lot of groundwork, which is perhaps why I'm fortunately quite supple still. All right. Okay. Do you have any do you have any children, and are they supportive of your renunciation? Yes, I do, and yes, they are. I think I've spoken about that before. Not much more I can say on that one. I think as I'm supportive of anything they do, if they're happy, then I'm happy and I'm supportive. So I think they think the same way. I'm not quite sure how this is translated quite right, this question, but you're referring to, I said there are no permanent relationships. That referring to people or pets, dogs and cats. Oh, and that's true. All conditioned things are impermanent, anicca. Those that we love, we will be parted from, or they parted from us. They will die or we will die, even if we don't go our separate ways through disagreement. Relationships end. And as you've seen, I mean, I've had a couple of dog pets, or not pets, but friends that came to my kuti when I was in Thailand. Obviously they're fine, they stayed there. I had this little tom-tom dog in my kuti in South India for the Vasa, which died not after not very long time, so that went. And now Balala the cat has appeared to be my new reincarnation, is the right word for that, of a friend here in my kuti here in Bentota, that seems to be becoming more prominent in my morning puja videos. She comes, she's out at night, going off doing what she does, hunting and things, and unskillful things I think cats do at night, and returns in the morning as soon as I start chanting. So you'll see that if you join me for those morning sessions. And meditation, she likes meditation. She'll sit by me, buzzing, purring, whatever you call it, and it's good to have that company. But I fully appreciate that when I move on, she'll stay here, or she'll die, or she'll be retrieved by whomever owns her, because I think she probably has owners. And these things are impermanent. But then you go on to say, but how about spiritual relationships? Are they permanent? Well, what is a spiritual relationship? I think this is also a conditioned thing. All conditioned things are impermanent. Spiritual relationship, maybe if you're thinking very deeply about this, you might say, do we come across people in the next lifetime? Well, it is said that the people we are associating and mixing with now, we have associated and mixed with in the past, and we are drawn together again if it was a wholesome relationship. But I can't know that for sure, and nor can you. So we are yet to find that out. But it does make sense, because this is the nature of karma. So if you have a very close relationship through a lifetime, then chances are, and if you read the suttas, there are many occasions in suttas where there are these references where the Buddha had relationships in previous lifetimes with, especially in the Jataka tales, with various people that he had relationships in this current existence, or when he became the Buddha. Yes, that if you're referring to that, then that is so. But they're still, again, not permanent. They come to an end and they start again, because they are conditioned things, and all conditioned things are impermanent. Well, then you go on to ask something else which I really don't understand. So I said I'd talk about it now. So the second bit, you might have to re-explain it to me. Next question. And also, I'm not looking at those second bits anymore, because this is that bit I've mentioned before. I can't, they don't come up automatically. I only find them by mistake. Do you know Jesus? N-O, you mean K-N-O-W, so it's not your fault, it's just, I'm not criticising, it's just I'm trying to understand the question. Do I know Jesus? I know of Jesus, I don't know him, I know of Jesus. I can only say that to that question. Question, how do you develop Samata meditation to the end? Limit, finish line, if there's such a limit. Okay, you don't, so Samatha in Pali. Now, I think your question on Samatas, your questions on Samatha have come up a few times, and they seem to me to come from a background of a different tradition, or a Sanskrit, a northern school of Buddhism tradition, where it means a different thing. Samatha are more along the lines of Samadhi, I think. So Samadhi and Samatha are completely different things. Samatha is usually associated with Vipassana. It's a quality. So Vipassana gets regarded as a practice, a meditation practice, because you hear of Vipassana courses, Vipassana retreats, Vipassana schools, S.N. Goenka's Vipassana teachings. It gets misinterpreted because it's the end result. It is, we practice mindfulness, sati, and we practice samadhi, meditation, to develop these qualities of vipassana, which means seeing clearly, and samatha, which is tranquility, peace and calm. Also in Pali is passaddhi, is peace and calm, tranquility, as one of the 7 factors of enlightenment. So we develop this quality of samatha, through our practice of sila, samadhi, panya. We develop this quality. So it doesn't have a finish line, it doesn't have an end, because we're continuously developing it to such an extent when it's fully developed and we have absolute calm, tranquility and peace, in its own right isn't the end. It still needs the accompanying other 6 factors of enlightenment for you to be fully enlightened. This is in the Pali tradition, or the Theravada tradition, which uses the Pali canon as its teachings in the Pali language, not Sanskrit. So this is where sometimes it gets a little confusing. So you develop samatha as or passaddhi as a quality, much like you develop the quality of metta, karuna, mudita and upekkha. But metta also gets quoted as a meditation practice, a thing you do. It is really the result of the practice, a certain kind of practice, to develop the quality of metta. So you have this quality of metta. So it's very popular because it is a very feel-good kind of practice. And the point of this practice is to feel good. In order for us to be happy, and for this practice to develop into something really much deeper, a much deeper Dharma, of more in-depth stages of samadhi. Now, if you are referring to samadhi rather than samatha, then please watch. I have made videos on the 4 stages of samadhi, also on the jhanas, so the 4 stages of samadhi leading to the 4 rupa jhanas. Then there are the 4 arupa jhanas, so there are 8 jhanas, and then there is a 9th jhana in some schools of thought. But just developing the first stage of samadhi is where most people are at in this practice, to become fully absorbed, free from the 5 hindrances and approaching that stage of the first jhana, where you have this samatha feeling of tranquility, calmness, and to some extent some equanimity. May I know, is this jackfruit wood, if the jackfruit wood was used from an old tree or a young one? Okay, I think it was used, usually it's used from a branch of an old tree, branches of an old tree. So, you know, a branch about this size, that they often fall off, or they're lying around old dead jackfruit trees or something like that. So they're what they cut up. So they don't go around cutting down new trees to dye my robes. They use there's a lot of jackfruit trees here. So they're just like bits of jackfruit wood are lying around. It needs to be fairly thick to have good heartwood. And as you saw, it was a good chunk that this chap was chopping up. So I wasn't there. I don't know where it came from exactly, but it's quite common. It's a common amount of wood. They're not cutting down special rare trees or anything like that. Jackfruit's very common in these parts of the world, which is why it was used or recommended in the Thai forest tradition. But the reason it's actually used rather than other versions and different coloured robes you see is because it very much does say, the Buddha did say in the suttas, that this colour of robes should be that of the colour of dung water, and dung water is this colour. So if you get some cow dung and you put it in a wet rainy puddle, the water around goes this horrible mucky kind of pooey gingery colour, yes? So this was the colour the Buddha was aspiring to when he recommended we dyed these robes this colour, dung water. And jackfruit heartwood brings about this this not good colour, but we get used to it and grow to love it. And these robes have come out very well with this process of dyeing we went through, which was quite an ordeal. It took 2 days to do what used to take us in Thailand a couple of hours to do. But you know, it was good practice. And we did do it the real traditional old-fashioned way with logs, fires and all of this. But of course monks can't light fires, so I've explained to my upasakas that it would be better if they made something that someone could either light the fire in the morning and it would keep going in a little stove thing, or a gas fire maybe, just so that I can, because this is it's not a ceremonial exercise, it's what I have to do every 15 days to keep my robes clean and fresh, and it's not just for colour, it's not for appearance, it has its antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, which if it wasn't for those in this treatment it's just had, these robes would stink to high heaven now for sure, because they haven't dried properly for 3 days since they were dyed on Sunday, and it's now Wednesday. So they've been damp. Can you imagine in a warm, humid atmosphere what cloth starts to smell like? You just smell the bottom of your laundry basket if someone's put something damp in there, or you leave something for an hour in the washing machine without taking it out. It goes mouldy and horrible, and you can't often use it again or remove that mould. So this is how good the properties of that jackwood heartwood is. It still smells fresh. I wouldn't say like detergent. It smells like a woody, fiery, fruity kind of nice, really. I'm used to it. I sleep in this, wear it all day and everything. So I couldn't if it smelled like the bottom of a laundry basket or an old washing machine, I can assure you. So it does work. It's all for practical purposes. It's not a game. It's not a ceremonial thing. But good question. Thank you for asking. Okay. This is a long question about all my Pindapart. I think I answered most of those questions from you in the last talk, including about if I'm offered banana and spam. Well, bring it on. I get a lot of bananas here, huge number of bananas. Namo Buddha, may I know where you are staying? Oh, we've had that, haven't we? And this is a different question, same. I'm still in Bentota. And anyone who wants to come and see me, they would be very welcome. There's plenty, you'd have to find your own accommodation nearby. There's plenty of accommodation around, but I have a suitable place for you to come and visit me. In the day, you can come for the morning Pindapat. You can come and offer food, or just come with your presence is all I would. That's what I would appreciate, to see you at any time. Join me for meditation, and also do what everyone else does when they come to this beautiful country, which are many, many things. So it's a beautiful place to visit. So I'd certainly encourage you to do that. And if I get to see you too, it's a bonus. I've answered that one too. This is about the going on Pindapat in the afternoon, which we don't do. So having broken the precepts, how does one let go of the kilesa of remorse and regret? Okay, so specifically remorse and regret isn't what we call a kilesa. A kilesa is something that it's right in the case that it's distracting you from meditation. You're thinking of the past. But really, when we're looking at destroying the kilesas, we're looking at really eradicating greed, hatred and delusion. Delusion will include this. It's ignorance is a harsh word, but it is ignorance as to the facts that what you're referring to really there, remorse, is guilt. And like I think already answered in the previous talk, not the previous talk, but the previous questions and answers talk last week, guilt is not a real thing. It's just something we make up in response to bad actions of body, speech and mind, bad karma we have done. It's not a thing. Not any point thinking about it at all. You cannot do anything, undo what you have done. Make amends, make apologies, do whatever you need to do at the time or even later or even now. But all that is important is what you do in this present moment. All of your actions of body, speech and mind, and even how you think, developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states in this present moment is what's important. Let go of, it's not how to let go, just put them down. What can you do about your remorse of the past? An example was somebody had killed something in the past and was worried about this. Okay, this cannot be eradicated from your past karmic actions. All of your actions of body, speech and mind remain as done. They cannot be taken away. But the more good you do from here on after, in the here in after, the more those bad things become diluted. Often our remorse, our regret is a far more powerful, having more of a powerful effect on ourselves, on our own minds, than the victims of those actions. So you might have said something horrible to someone and they've forgotten all about it, but it's still bothering you. This is why we should be so very careful about these actions of body, speech and mind, because the damage you do is to yourself. But don't worry about that now. Don't think about that now. Move on. I know that's a cliche expression, moving on, but this is what it means. Letting go of the past, seeing what you can do in the present moment. If it helps, go and help someone. Do something generous. Give some poor someone some food that doesn't have someone, or help an old lady across the road, or something like this. But the point is, we practice this path, this Noble Eightfold Path, Sila Samadhi Panya, from now on, and we don't let our bad actions of the past hold us in the past. We allow ourselves to move forward into only good things, and this is how you should deal with it. I imagined that life as a monk was where you must live in a leaky kuti. That preconceived notion kept me away from the Dharma for a long time. Well, usually I do. I have lived in leaky kutis. I think the last one wasn't that leaky, but it wasn't raining much. I've certainly lived in, they're very damp, whether they're leaky or not, in these humid environments. And even where I'm staying, like I was just saying, I can't get anything dry unless the sun comes out for an hour or so and I get a bit of wind and put it on the line outside. I can dry things that way. But even with the fan, it's a uphill struggle to keep things not damp. But actually, living conditions where we live is very unimportant. What is important is that we don't live in luxury. Now, what you're seeing is not really the whole scope of things. You're seeing my little, you're seeing in my little room where I'm staying at the moment, and it is dry. It has electric light and an electric fan, and it has a door. And it even has windows, which I'm not used to. I haven't had windows for years. It has glass. I never shut them because I have the doors and windows open all of the time. But you could, if you wanted to, shut the glass windows. So in that respect, it's not a leaky kuti. However, this is unimportant. As long as we're living in suitable places. I mean, the Buddha recommended under a tree, in the open air, in a cave, or in an empty building. So I moved into an empty building, as there was one, and they made it comfortable for me. So that's where I'm staying at the moment. But it's unimportant where I stay. It's what you do. It's your practice. And the kutis, damp, mouldy kutis, shouldn't keep you away from the Dharma. Your kilesas are keeping you away from the Dharma. Your own defilements of aversion, not wanting to be damp or uncomfortable. Now, we're not practicing this path to be living in luxury and comfortable, but we're not also ascetics. It's the middle path. So we find something that's suitable to our physiology, our mentality, and our culture that we can practice comfortably, but not too comfortably. Keep us alert, keep us awake, keep us experiencing reality. So not big comfy sofas and air conditioning, that's ridiculous. Now, there are monasteries, and they're all different. You can explore all different monasteries. If you meant it's keeping you away from becoming a monk, as opposed to keeping you away from Dharma, because nothing can keep you away from the Dharma. Everything you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and think about is Dharma. It's just the truth. It's just giving it a label, really. It's like nature. It's all around us. So nothing's keeping you away from that. It's not keeping you away from the teachings of the Buddha. They're fully available. If you're talking to me like this online, you have access to the entire Triplicate and the teachings of the Buddha from all of the schools and different traditions that there are available. So it's not keeping you away from the teachings of the Buddha, which is the other reference that the Dharma is. But you will find, going to different monasteries, they all vary in terms of their scale of luxury. And some are, and maybe not rightly so, quite comfortable. You know, even I've heard that even some of them have things like air conditioning and comfortable beds and sofas and TVs and things like that. But I wouldn't personally wish to practice in such a place, because what would be the point? They're just things I don't need anymore, and distractions. When I say things I don't need anymore, you get used to living on the floor. You get used to these damp conditions, you get used to not having air conditioning, so then why put yourself through the whole problematical aspect of then getting used to having them again, then not to, so when they don't work, then you suffer more. So hopefully it's good news that you're now more open to the Dharma and don't think that all monks have to live in damp places, but we are generally in damp places, so you're not that wrong there. And even, you know, caves are very mouldy and damp. And I'm sitting on a wet sand floor now, no plastic mats, no anything like that. Why does it not bother me? Because I was already wet just walking down here. I haven't dried out since Pinart this morning, and I won't probably dry out much before I go to sleep tonight either. Usually when I wake up in the morning, I'm just about dry. So that's as dry as it gets at this time of year. But then, you know, this is the rainy, it seems to go on a rather long time here, but this is the rainy season still here. I've noticed you stopped to chant some blessings a few times on your arms round, but you didn't do this every time. Someone stopped you to give dana. But you didn't do this every time someone stopped you to give you dana. I was wondering why. Yes, well noticed. I do sometimes give a short blessing. We're not actually supposed to, as monks, enter into any correspondence, communication, even really smile by way of an acknowledgement for receiving the alms. So when we're collecting alms on alms round, on Pindapar, we should be fairly neutral, receive the food, it goes into the bowl, and we walk on. But I'm afraid I can't, I'm not 100%, I cannot resist the temptation. When I see some people, I cannot resist the temptation to just offer them a very short blessing, because I just have this, there's nothing to determine why some people and why not some others. Maybe some are moving a little bit more quickly, they just want to go to work, they put the food in your bowl and they're off on their way, and others may just hang around that second or two more, or just accidentally make eye contact, or they smile, and I just feel it appropriate. And I've seen in Thailand many monks, for every dana offering they give a small chant, and many who don't ever even so much as look up or smile. And I suppose I've found somewhere in the middle. There is no rhyme nor reason, no science behind it. I just go with the feeling, which I know we're perhaps not really supposed to do, but I do have a feeling sometimes that this person really would appreciate if I was to offer them a little blessing at this time. And it takes just a few moments, and they seem to really appreciate it. And for that reason, some I do and some I don't. And a good question. Thank you for that. I really love the Triplicate motto. Do bhikkhus in Theravada have meditation on 10,080 things? Thoughts, kalpas, etc., like Hinduism and Taoists might. Okay, so there's a magic number of 108, which is often 1,800, 1,080 or 10,080. This magic 108, I've got 108 beads on my mala. This is very much coming from the Tibetan traditions, what you're talking about there. So the answer is no. The Buddha in the Theravada tradition, in the Pali Canon, in the southern school, spoke of 40 meditation methods. A lot of those are in groups, so it's not really a whole 40 different kinds, one of which is anapanasati, mindfulness of the breath, which is really the only meditation method I use, if any, in that respect, directly. No is the answer to your question. But often we might say chant Itipiso 108 times on Uposatha night, just for the sake of it's a good number. It's 100 times, and if you add on 8, the chances are you're not going to go short of 100. It also has many significances too, but how much of those are urban myths, if that's the right term, or the truth, I'm not sure. So I won't go into all of those, but it's an auspicious number, and if there has to be one, that's the one we use, even in all of the traditions, in its various forms. And the triplicate, so the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the triple gem, we refer to it as, I think you're referring to that, so I'm glad that you like that. You can take refuge in it. It's not a belief system, it's just an accepting that there was this teacher, the Buddha, the Dharma, his teachings, and the Sangha, us monks and nuns, whom have proliferated, propagated, kept these teachings going throughout these millennia to this day, by living by the example he set as best or as close to as we can. The Sangha. You can take refuge in that. Is just a way of taking surety from the knowledge that those wholesome things exist in your life. Can I become your spiritual friend for meditation purposes? Yes, please, I hope so. You already are. You're already my Kalyana Mita, as are you all whom are offering these very lovely comments and kind words of encouragement continuously here. I don't read those out, but I do read them all and try and reply to them all, and inwardly digest your generosity and support of that nature, just your observations of what I'm doing, your acknowledgement of what I'm doing, and your kind words of encouragement that help me to, I would continue my practice anyway, but they help me to continue to share my experiences of my practices with others, like yourself watching now and anyone else who is watching. This support is what encourages me to do so. And I think we've gone over 6,000 subscribers now. So thank you for subscribing if you have. That's quite a considerable number of subscribers. It's not millions like some YouTube channels, but it's not that kind of a YouTube channel. It's a Dharma channel. So it's quite a few for a Dharma channel. And what is more important than numbers is the quality of not the quality of the content, the quality of this, how do I put it, the quality of the subscription. The fact that most of the subscribers I know are watching and giving feedback, comments via this medium. So by that I know that it's not just clicking and viewing for 10 seconds and moving on. You're actually asking me questions about what I might have said or what I've referred to, and that way we're having this interaction, and we are forming this interdependence, and we're forming this online community, you with me and all of you with each other. And that's a wonderful and beautiful thing to see, and an example of Kalyana Mitta in this modern day and age. Okay, so I'll make this the last, as it is the last question, and I can feel the rain starting, so it's wonderful timing. I have a small Buddha statuette, a Buddha Rupa, that's correct, we call it that. A statue's fine, but Buddha Rupa is the usual, is one way we refer to it. Rupa just means form. Only about 5 inches tall, sitting in a lotus pose, both hands in its lap. I've had it for years and it's sitting on a shelf. I'd like to put it somewhere more appropriate. Okay, so size is not important. What is the most important thing with these? I've got a very tiny one which I carry around with me everywhere, so it's very easy, it doesn't take up any room, like this. But even so, it is up there with my Buddha Rupa in our little chapel, our temple. I shouldn't call it a chapel, but I call it that because it doesn't have gold and flashing lights. Makes it temples, I think of gold and flashing lights, and I'm not keen on gold and flashing lights. Not even keen on too many in the way of flowers and things. A bit of candles, a bit of incense, I think is enough for us to really reflect on the practice and understand the teachings of the Buddha. And of course the Buddha didn't want any statues of himself, but we need something. We're humanity. So we are grateful to the Greeks for bringing this image we have of what the Buddha might have appeared to look like. Probably not like that, but it's good for us to use as reference. And this is, if you'll notice, is quite high up. So often the most important place to, in terms of consideration where to put it, don't have anything above it. It should be also in a room where only wholesome activities are going on. So don't have it in the bathroom, don't have it necessarily in the bedroom, or the kitchen where you're preparing food and things like that. You know, not that there's anything unwholesome with that, it's just not respectful. So in a living room, and not even a dining room, so in a living room, or even if you have stuck for space, a good place to put it is in the entrance hallway of a house, but high up, so on a door architrave, so on the top ledge of a doorway, if you have architraves in the country where you are. I used to put my tiny little Buddha up there with a piece of blue tack, stick him up there, because he was always high up. So the point being is, even if you're not bowing, the Buddha is above all people coming and going. So you can forget to bow, you can forget to pay respects, but you're still automatically paying. So it's about height and having nothing above him. And in terms of direction, it doesn't really matter, although Buddhist temples are like English churches. They're structured so they faced east to west. I think it's east to west, or is it west to east? Yes, east to west. I have mine facing east to west. My own reason for that is because I like to face my Buddha Rupa when I'm meditating, and I like to face east when I meditate. Now, on this coast, which is a west coast, the sunset, if I was meditating, if we were meditating, making pretty Instagram videos or something like that, whatever they are, you'd be looking at this beautiful sunset facing the sunset. But I wouldn't be. I'd have my back to the sun. I'd be looking that way. Because the planet is going that way. So if you're sitting on a train, you generally, most people like to sit in the seat facing the direction they're traveling in. So I take the attitude that when I'm meditating, if I can, then it's a good idea to sit myself facing east. Because this is the way that the Earth is travelling. And as it's travelling at some 2,000 miles an hour, although we don't notice it, why not be facing that direction? So it's wonderful if you're sitting on the east coast of a country, as I was when I was in Tamil Nadu, on the east coast of India, in Pondicherry there, you could see the sun rise. And when I was in Thailand also, I was on the east coast, so I used to watch the sun rise. And then I could meditate, and I was going with the direction of the planet. So it's not some mystical, magical reason, it's a physical reason. I think there is such momentum of this whole planet speeding at 2,000 miles an hour, round and around and around, like this, that we sit in meditation facing the way we're going. And then the sun will set behind us, the new day will begin in front of us. This also makes sense, doesn't it? So our Buddha is often facing from the east to the west, because we, of course, come from the west. Most people experiencing Buddhism from the west are looking to the east for enlightenment. In Thailand, of course, the east, as far as the Buddha is concerned, is in the west, because it's the west of Thailand, India. But I still think they have their Buddhas in the east, because you could go all the way around again if you're going around the planet in this same direction. So like we always go clockwise around a stupa, with our right side, the bared shoulder to the stupa when we're circumambulating. I take the same principle. Well, okay, sit in meditation facing east. So in regards to which direction you should have your Buddha facing, east to west is good, or west to east is okay. It doesn't really matter though. One would discourage normally north to south or south to north, but I'm not sure why. Similarly, when practicing walking meditation, it is said you should walk east to west or west to east. Well, of course, you have to do both, walking back and forth, and not north to south or south to north. At very exceptional, at the biangles. So that's, I think, time enough for today, and I've caught up on the questions, I'm pleased to say, allowing me freedom to talk about something else tomorrow if I am blessed with the opportunity to do so, and your company. So I thank you for watching. I hope there's something there that is useful you can use and share with others. If not, just let it go, and many blessings to you with metta. Be happy and stay well.